I think the biggest contributing factor as to why the co-op has been successful over the last 100 years is because it's been able to keep up with the producer, change as the farmer has.
The people are the biggest contributor to the success. You can have great assets, but without the people, whether that's from the board all the way through the patron, the co-op wouldn't exist. And so it's always going to be the people and the relationships, in my opinion, which will contribute to a successful co-op.
It's our passion to serve the farmers, and it's the passion that starts at the board and goes all the way down to the employees, the boots on the ground people.
When you think about the biggest factors that have contributed to the Garden City Co-op's success over the years, you obviously got to think about innovation. The co-op's always been one of the leaders as far as innovating, keeping ahead of the pace of technology and what's changing. You go back over the years, being in the different businesses they were involved in, everything from a feed yard to a credit union, constantly having that innovative foresight to stay ahead of the agriculture industry and continue to provide for the member owners.
We've had leaders. We've had people that were willing to take risks, appropriate calculated risks, but willing to jump off and do something to create value for our farmers. And then on the other side of it, we had employees that were willing to help benefit the farmers, do the right thing, be able to help a farmer be more successful and be vested in them while being an employee of the co-op. And then just overall membership. We've got really strong farmers.
I think the co-op, in order to hold true to its mission statements and core principles, really needs to continue the growth and engagement that we have with our farmers, whether that be technological, the advances, the partnerships that the co-op actually brings with other companies, being able to bring that together kind of as that community and really pushing forward for the benefit of the farmer.
We have to understand the farm. Our vision is to become the most trusted partner on the farm, and so therefore we have to understand the strengths, the weaknesses, the objectives of those farms, and understand how we can fill in their gaps.
So Garden City Co-op, what makes them special in my mind is the fact that, you know, they're early innovators. They're not, they're not living off of everyone else's success. They're trying things that a majority of the farms out there, you know, they're not gonna, be doing the things that Garden City Co-op is doing, on their own.
If I recall correctly, both statements had the word value in it. And I think that's going to be probably the key to providing what the farmers want in this area. The old saying is the person votes with their checkbook. Farmers are no different. So what people find value in, they're willing to pay for, and what people aren't, they don't.
If we're not creating value for our farmers, we don't need to be here. Because there's plenty of other competition that will do that. That can mean a lot of different things. Value includes price, but also value includes service. Value includes bringing new technologies. Value means introducing new ideas that may not be originated in our area. And to continue to grow at a sustainable way so that we can be there to provide services for our members, all while still carrying on the core values that we also have of trustworthiness and stable and dependable. We need to be here for our farmers when they need us. We need to be reliable. We need to be there for the long run for the farmers. And we have an analogy of base hits instead of home runs, because you can't always hit a home run. But if you can hit singles and doubles all the time, you're consistent, you're always moving forward. And if we carry out those core values and meet the expectations that our farmers have for us, we should be successful. And if we're successful, we can be sustainable.
I think the farmer of the future is probably going to be a lot larger than he is today, and a lot more complicated, more technology savvy, and probably a little more challenging to serve.
I think the farmer of the future really needs to embrace the technological advances that are coming forward, really using the data that the machinery, the technology, and the collection are really helping him have right now, being able to interpret that data, make better decisions, being able to look at that more in a future role, help with the planning and knowing where they're going, not just this next planting season or 2 years out, but know where that's going to end up in 10 years.
Farms are growing, farms are consolidating, and so farmers today take care and maintain more land than they used to. What that requires is larger investments on the farms. Farmers need their own stronger balance sheets. They need to maintain their stronger working capital. What that creates is farmers mirror more business people than a stereotypical farmer.
He's in front of his computers and he's looking at his field forecasting tools, and he understands that this field over here is performing this way, and so he needs to deploy this resource to take care of that issue there. And then he's over here looking at this data and he's understanding the return that this field is giving him, and so these are the changes that he's going to have to make on that field or that piece of his farm for it to be successful.
One year for my birthday, my dad got me a farming game for the computer, and he sat down and he told me, he goes, "You'll be farming like this, by the time you're my age." And in a way, I mean, he was ahead of his time, because now we're not clicking the mouse to tell a tractor where to go, but we have software that we program routes, A/B lines for the tractors, headlands, boundaries. So we're not at we're gonna sit behind our computer and run our farm yet, but we're close. I still think that Dad had it right.
It's funny looking into the future. We really can't look into the future, but the best example of future performance, or the best indicator of future performance, is past performance. So whenever I look at old pictures in our office or anywhere of farmers that are farming 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and to us it looks like, they are doing things that it's just Neanderthal. It's just so simple, and we just look at that. How could they make it? But when they were doing it, they were in present. That was the future. They were using the best available technology, the best farming practices, what they had at hand during that time to get the job done. And so right now, I wonder what the farmer of the future is going to look back at what I'm doing. I hope they say, that's what we're doing the best that we could do with what we have.
What's a producer look like now? It varies. Everybody's a little different. It's not all about the scale of the farm. It's about profitability, and the cooperative is the same way.
Usually when I'm thinking about it, I think, what will my son want or need? We're paying for something in 20 years that might be around 100 years that my children or grandchildren can be using. What will they value in terms of service, in terms of innovation?
I think what the Garden City Co-op has to do is find the right solution for the right problem. And within grain storage, The need for handling commodities is different than the need from handling specialty commodities or commodities that need to be identity preserved to service a certain market or need to be segregated.
That shows you that there will continually be a need for storage. This could be smaller bins rather than just a bulk bin that we've put everything into. But then we also have to look at the other side of the equation, in that we'll always have grain as a commodity. And the reason for that is because the world will always demand cheap food, and you can't identity preserve everything and feed the world. And so while the United States may be able to afford to do some of those programs, the world will need grain raised in a volume and on a scale that's affordable. So we will continually need to build storage as long as the farmers continue to become more and more productive on less resources.
We'll see equipment continue to be more efficient. I mean, you know, a vehicle from the 70s got maybe 10 miles a gallon. We got half-ton diesel pickups that are getting 26 miles to the gallon. And over time, I think that'll continue to evolve in the next 30 to 50 years.
The energy department today is based mostly on the energy needs of our farmers, whether that's diesel or their oil and lubricant needs, based on petroleum-derived sources. So as the environment for energy evolves on the farms, you'll probably see the Garden City Co-op evolve with it. Electricity use is beneficial, but in rural areas where we have equipment that require large pieces of sources of power, that isn't always feasible. Competition always creates new opportunities as well. So as we see the use of electricity becoming more widespread, the efficiency of diesel and oil products is also increasing.
Diesel's been around since the 1900s, gas as well. You know, the petroleum industry is strong. And on a world stage with trade and exports, that I think we'll still have to have the need for petroleum industry for the next 100 years. It'll just evolve, and the demand side might decrease as technology increases.
Water is a huge issue.
The reason we have agriculture in southwest Kansas is primarily because of that water, I would say.
While area producers, you know, are doing what they can to save that water, and you know, doing programs to help make sure that's there. All these things, the different nozzles, the different types of irrigation, anything you can do to become more economically sound in your water use and be a steward of that water resource. None of that's bad, but and maybe it takes the co-op, in some way lobbying for some change, but it's got to come. It's got to come from the higher ups that says, hey, this is an issue. This is what we need. Because in today's setup, all it takes is one guy that says, I'm not doing that, and the system's broken.
The groundwater and the river water, it's going away. I mean, there's just no way to sugarcoat that. We're using it faster than it's been replenishing, and I only see that continuing to happen. Again, economics drives that. It's obviously a limited resource. We need to be using it very, very responsibly, but I do feel that we should be using it as economic value.
The equipment today, we're going to get better at conserving that water and having a good idea exactly when to apply, what to apply, and how to manage that throughout the season to be most efficient as we can. Everything from soil moisture probes that will continue to evolve to even crop models that predict how much moisture you need at any given time for a given pivot, to everything from satellite technology that can take a visual look at that crop and then determine based off changes within that crop on a day-to-day basis if there is a need for irrigation water. One thing that will help is as we try to manage that groundwater is a change we're seeing in seed traits, especially corn. The drought-tolerant gene will be a key piece on keeping corn production in southwest Kansas viable for the next 100 years. I firmly believe that.
We need to use the water efficiently, and I think we can do that in a sustainable way. We've found today that with some of our watering practices, we tend to water too much at the beginning of a season and we tend to water too much at the end of a season. And so managing that, we've learned that we can reduce water usage and maintain yield and profitability of a farm. And we need to continue to improve on that. We need to continue to test technologies. We need to continue to figure out ways to use water appropriately.
This will be the second summer that we're testing a crop model that's really going to change, I think, how you would produce a crop. There's been so much emphasis from a fertility perspective ever since our grandfathers were farming, that you put your fertilizer down up front and then you plant your crop and then you wait for Mother Nature to either rain or not rain or irrigate, and at the end of the year you'd have a crop. There's going to be a shift here in the next few years, and it will continue to transition well into the future, where we don't necessarily manage that crop so much up front before planting as we do in season. So using combinations of crop models, satellite technology, we'll be able to dial down to when that plant needs, say, nitrogen at any given time of the growing season. And then with the application technology that will be available in the future, whether that's through a pivot or maybe an autonomous sprayer or drone or any number of vehicles that could apply a nutrient in season to the crop, we'll be able to manage that crop and have higher yields with less inputs going into the future.
The way I see it, the limiting factor for our area is the width of the road, right? We have to get our equipment down the road. So the manufacturers have done all kinds of really interesting things on how to fold these equipment up and how to design, the power you need, the width you need, the height you need, and the capacity you need, and still get down a 25-foot county road out here, getting it from one field to another. And then how do you resupply it and how do you get it out once we produce it, So out here, and at least in our part of the world, Southwest Kansas, I think the limiting factors are the roads. That's what I think it is. That's how big it'll get. And then at some point, do I think that we could, just have 6 of them in the back of my pickup truck, drop them off, let them fly around and service individual plants, not even rows, but water individual plants, fertilize individual plants, cut weeds individually. And when will that happen? In my opinion, whenever the technology is affordable to do so. And I hope it's in my lifetime. I can't wait to see it.
I remember riding a combine with my dad back in the early 80s, and it didn't even have a cab, let alone GPS equipment. I was at a presentation several months ago, and it talked about the combine of the future. It's not a combine. The combine of the future is a computer. It's collecting as much data as anything out there that you would find, across the entire industry. Every plant is going to know exactly how much yield came off an individual plant.
One of the other things that's going on as you look at farm machinery, the farm machinery manufacturers are making their machinery so it basically sets itself. Any ordinary person off the street can crawl in that deal, and through algorithms, that machinery can tell the conditions of the field, where the combine, tractor, whatever needs to be set, and basically all the labor has to do is basically drive.
So when you look at, the Garden City employee of the future, especially those ones that manage the relationships with the farm gate with our growers, that skill set will have to evolve. A lot of the knowledge that I obtained, especially on the agronomy side at a land-grant university, that took several years of study. Today, a farmer can essentially go on their device, and everything I learned in 4 years, at a click of a button, they're going to know how to answer. I think the employee of the future doesn't necessarily come from a land-grant institution. Maybe they come from a trade school that specifically trains them in specific areas of agriculture production that are tied back to the technology. There's a lot of programs today that are just starting up across the U.S. that focus specifically on precision agriculture or digital agriculture that are 2-year programs. You look at the rising college costs as well, there's going to be a shift. And I think Garden City Co-op, as innovative as they are, has a real opportunity to take advantage and grab those employees of the future to help their customer base continue to stay ahead of the game.
So the IT department for the co-op was kind of historically internal as we worked on our processes, making them easier, more efficient, scalable. Now I've started to see kind of a shift where we're actually focusing outwards more towards the members. How do we get the members their information, their data, in a way that they can consume and want to consume? And with that, we have built infrastructure. Our elevators now communicate directly with our server, almost instantaneous. Through our app, we push those tickets out to our farmers. So they're receiving that information back that we have almost at the same time we're getting it. And I see that continuing kind of in that tread. Our website, as we're working on that, will become more of that personal based interface with the farmer and the communication between them and their co-op and the people that they work with here.
The benefits of an internet-based system is that they can conduct that business whenever they want to, and they will be able to browse and see all the products. They will be able to put in grain offers or orders after market hours,
which will add to the efficiency of both the cooperative and the farmer, because it'll allow him or her to have 24-hour access to the markets. And so if the markets were to rally, he would be able to capture that opportunity at any given time. I believe that we'll always have the need for the relationship from the employee, such as the grain originator and the farmer, because I think that's where the real connection happens. But I think the digital tools will be a product that will allow them to conduct business in a way they've never been able to with us before.
So I think the e-commerce model, as we incorporate it in our business, will bring a lot of value as far as operational efficiencies, ease for the farmer to get in and order his products without having to wait on a phone call from a sales representative, and be able to be a true digital transaction from start to finish.
So with our website and our customer dashboard, as we're developing it now, we really want to tailor it to a personal experience for the farmer. So with that, we are bringing in their team within the co-op, whether that is through petroleum, crop production, or grain. This is the digital experience with the co-op. So they will log in, they will be able to see their invoices, their billing, be able to pay their bills through it in the future. They'll be able to look at their grain inventories within our storage, be able to sell them and work with their marketers, hopefully be able to monitor their tanks for petroleum and liquid fertilizers and anything like that. So it really actually becomes a communication hub, I think, between the co-op and the farmer in the future. I see some more communication happening through there as it becomes easier and more available. Our agronomists, for example, can be a lot more remote and still offer their professional opinions. We can do this through video chatting while in the middle of a field, for instance, so they can actually help with their own crop scouting. But I don't ever see that face-to-face kind of communication and that right beside you expertise ever fully going away.
It's kind of crazy, but at the same time, you look back where we were in the 30s and 50s, to where we went from essentially horse-drawn equipment to automated equipment powered by small tractors to today. At the touch of your fingertips, you're operating a huge combine worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's rapid change, and it's only going to accelerate.
So with the evolution of the digital platform, I think that that's going to mean so much. It's going to be very helpful in the supply chain, because a lot of the fluff that has been in the supply chain has to go away. And so the supply chain has to be transparent from the manufacturer all the way down to the farm.
When you look at the ag industry today, from a disruption standpoint, I mean, that's a big buzzword today, disruption across the entire supply chain. But we've always been disrupted to some extent, especially when you look at the shift from dryland crops out here to irrigation. I mean, that was a disruptor to the economy. Was it a good disruptor? Yes. I mean, we swelled up to be, as far as Kansas is concerned, an agribusiness center and hub.
Disruption is the new normal now. If you're not a disruptor or being disrupted, you're probably not going to be here much longer. And you see that a lot in the ag industry. A lot of startups coming in with venture capitalist money. And a lot of times as we evaluate stuff, we kind of sit back. It's like, okay, there's 100 startups within this field of something we know we need and we're going to use. You know, do we engage one right now and, you know, kind of hitch our wagon to it, or do we wait a little bit? I think it's really driving technology and expansion within the ag industry. And I do see it kind of eventually affecting the grain marketing part. As some of the things we're even trying, we're becoming more instantaneous and hands-on with our farmers even, so that, you know, we're not following a paper trail.
When you look down the road, the pace of what we would consider disruption will probably accelerate somewhat, just due to the technology and innovation and as fast as things are coming. What's been great about our cooperative is they've had that foresight. They understand the pace of change and they're willing to stay ahead of that as a company, not only to help the farmer, but remain viable in the whole cooperative community.
So agriculture always needs to disrupt itself. We always need to be looking at ways to do things more efficiently, more productive, more economically. And we should be doing that on our own. We should be disrupting ourselves and always testing and failing small and learning from those failures so that we can be better in the long run. But it's also good at times to look outside of our own bubble and determine what works in other industries and can be applied within agriculture. Because in the end, we always need to be looking at new ways and new things to make sure that we're doing the best we can and creating the most value for our farmers.
Kansas is probably going to eventually here start seeing more of those mergers and acquisitions take place. The locals will all come together to get better access to market and better resources from our regionals.
We've seen a lot of consolidation in the co-op system in the United States, particularly in Nebraska and Iowa and Minnesota. Kansas has had its size of consolidation, but not to the same scale as other places. I think the co-ops in Kansas will at some point speed up the consolidation simply to match the needs of the farmer going forward. As farmers consolidate, the need for bigger investments, more grain storage, more services continues to increase. The economic ability to match those needs, though, is tougher. And so the ability to consolidate and increase balance sheet size helps benefit the value to the farmer.
The co-op needs to understand what is valuable to each farmer. And that's one thing I know that Garden City Co-op is working on is, determining, what is valuable to your farm, to my farm. What I find value in, you may not. I may need, more agronomic expertise, and be willing to pay something for it. If the Garden City Co-op is willing to learn what each farm needs, that will help each farm succeed.
Continuing to provide what we need when we need it. That's how I think we've got here, and that's how I think what we're going to use going forward is the value that we get from the co-op and what that is. And we on Maddox Farms, it's inputs when we need them, and getting it to us in a timely fashion, and then a place to take our grain, and being able to store that and being able to get in and out quickly. And going forward, I think that is going to remain the same, for at least for the time being, even more so.
What's actually useful, what's profitable, what and how it can affect my yield in a positive manner. So it's very useful to have a whole department sorting through all that, where I can go and use as a resource and utilize what actually works without having to become an expert in that field myself, and devote more time and money than what I'm willing to.
I think it's just exciting to have young people interested in coming back, and I truly hope our cooperative is an important role for them going forward like it had been for me in the past.
For the Garden City Co-op to continue to be successful in the future, we always need to remember what got us here. The use of technologies will come and go, but in the end, we have to continue to create value for our farmers. And we need to continue to have people that will step up and lead and revolutionize the way we do things so that we can continue to be productive and do things right for the farmer in the future.